Hello, wonderful. This is Sarah, and we live in a world where it has become more normal to talk about the bad things that have happened to you and more normal to talk about trauma and toxic relationships and mental health issues. And there are some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things about that process. It is good that we are feeling our feelings. It is good that we are telling our truths. It is good that we are becoming more emotionally intelligent. But every action has a reaction, right? And so sometimes I see people and they want to go into dating, they want to get a raise, they want to create wealth, they want to be amazing parents, they want to up level their life, and they end up, without realizing it, wearing trauma on their t-shirt. Okay. And you can imagine if I probably didn't get this done, but if I came and I said hello and I had trauma written on my t-shirt, uh, that would be pretty odd, right? It would be pretty interesting. But when people are using like, I'm a survivor of this, I'm a survivor of this, I'm a survivor of this, there's a good and bad to that. It is good that they are recognizing what has happened to them. And if that becomes your brand, I talk a lot in my Wondrous Woman program about your personal brand, parenting brand, personal brand. What is your brand? How are people seeing you? How are they perceiving you? I try for my own personal brand to be peace, passion, and power. I want to be a peacemaker. I used to be a peacekeeper. Now I want to be a peacemaker. I am very passionate about the work I do, the relationships I have, the people I love, and I want to be a person of power, both in my own personal power and then helping others step into their power. This is my brand. I hope I I'm also kind of light and bubbly, which some people like and some people don't, which is okay. But when I think about how people see me, I have experienced trauma, but I don't want that to be the most interesting thing that has happened to me. And especially if I was going into dating, especially when I think about how my kids see me, what's the most interesting thing about your mother? She went through trauma. She experienced toxic relationships. She was a people pleaser. That would be terrible if that was the legacy I was leaving my kids. Okay. What about going into having to speak well about yourself as far as promotions and that sort of thing? If the most interesting thing that has happened to you is the worst thing that has ever happened to you are wearing trauma on your t shirt. And a lot of people are choosing healing strategies like studying narcissism, focusing on the worst, talking about the worst things that have ever happened to them over and over again. And it's like they're trying to drive a car and they're putting their pain in the engine. They're putting their pain, their trauma, they're in the engine that is driving their car rather than the trunk. And obviously, it's best if we don't have any baggage, if we don't have anything in our car. But as you go through this process, and as you think about how you want to show up in the world, just make sure you're not wearing your trauma on your t shirt. Make sure that the worst thing that has happened to you is not the most interesting thing about you. Because finding love, success, your passion, being an amazing parent, finding an amazing partner, finding an amazing career, they're not choosing you based on your trauma. They're choosing you based on your strengths. Your grit, your intelligence, your tenacity, your beauty, your beauty of soul. It doesn't have to be beauty of appearance, but your wit, your ability to problem solve, your kindness, your care. Right? They're choosing you based on your strengths, not just on your weaknesses. So get that trauma off your t-shirt and have a fabulous day.